Hello, my dear friend. I want you to take a deep breath right now, wherever you are listening to this. Maybe you're walking down a quiet street. Maybe you're sitting in your kitchen with a warm cup of coffee. Or maybe you're lying in bed after a long day. No matter where you are, I want you to know that I see you. I see the person who opens their mouth to speak English and feels their throat close up. I see the person who knows exactly what they want to say in their heart. But when the moment comes, the words disappear like morning mist. You are not broken. You are not stupid. You are not too old, too slow, or too far behind. What you are experiencing has a name, and once you understand it, everything changes. The freezing, the panic, the feeling that your mind goes completely blank when someone asks you a simple question in English. This is not about your intelligence or your ability to learn. This is about something much deeper, something that lives in the space between your heart and your voice. I remember meeting Sarah, a brilliant doctor from Colombia who could perform complex surgeries but couldn't order coffee in English without her hands shaking. I remember Ahmed, an engineer who designed bridges but felt like he was falling off a cliff every time he had to speak English in a meeting. And I remember Maria, a mother of 3 who whispered to me that she felt like she was disappointing her children because she couldn't help them with their English homework, even though she understood every word they read. These beautiful, intelligent, capable people all shared the same secret wound. They had learned to see English not as a bridge to connection, but as a wall that separated them from who they really were. They had been taught that making a mistake in English meant failing as a person. They had absorbed the lie that fluency meant perfection, and until they were perfect, they should stay silent. But here's what I've discovered in my years of walking alongside English learners. The moment you freeze is not the moment you fail. The moment you freeze is the moment your heart is trying to protect you from an imaginary danger. Your brain, in its beautiful attempt to keep you safe, is telling you that speaking imperfect English will somehow hurt you. But what if I told you that your imperfect English is exactly what the world needs to hear? Today, we're going to unlock the real reason behind that freeze. We're going to understand why your body responds to English like it's a threat instead of a gift. And most importantly, we're going to learn how to speak from your heart instead of from your fear. By the end of our time together, you're going to feel something shift inside you. You're going to remember what it feels like to have words flow naturally, the way they do when you're talking to someone you love in your native language. I want you to imagine for a moment what it would feel like to speak English the way you speak to your best friend. Relaxed, natural, full of warmth and personality. What would it feel like to express a funny thought and hear someone laugh with you, not at you? What would it feel like to comfort someone in English, to share your wisdom, to tell your story in a way that makes people lean in closer instead of making you want to disappear? That person, the one who speaks with ease and warmth, that person is already inside you. They've just been waiting for permission to come out. Today, we give them that permission. Today, we begin to thaw the freeze and let your real voice emerge. Are you ready to discover who you really are in English? Let me tell you something that might surprise you. The reason you freeze when speaking English has nothing to do with English itself. It has everything to do with a story you've been telling yourself about what it means to make a mistake. Somewhere along the way, You learned that speaking imperfectly meant being imperfect as a person. You learned that stumbling over words meant stumbling through life. But what if that story was never true? Think about the last time you had a conversation in your native language with someone you love. Did you use perfect grammar every single time? Did you never pause to find a word, never restart a sentence, never laugh at yourself for saying something in a funny way? Of course not, because when you're speaking from your heart, perfection isn't the goal. Connection is the goal. Understanding is the goal. Sharing your beautiful, imperfect, wonderfully human self is the goal. But when it comes to English, we somehow forget this basic truth about human communication. We turn English into a performance instead of a conversation. We turn speaking into a test instead of an expression of who we are. And our hearts, wise as they are, recognize this shift and try to protect us by making us freeze. Because deep down, we know that performing isn't the same as communicating. I want you to try something with me right now. Put your hand on your heart and say these words out loud, even if you're in a public place, even if it feels silly. I am not here to perform. I am here to connect. Say it again. I am not here to perform. I am here to connect. Feel how different those words make your body feel. Notice how your shoulders might relax, how your breathing might deepen. Here's what I've learned from working with thousands of English learners. The people who become truly fluent aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who make mistakes with curiosity instead of shame. They're the ones who say, "Oh, interesting. That's not quite right. Let me try again." Instead of, "I'm so stupid. I'll never get this right." Let me share a story that changed everything for me. I once watched a 4-year-old named Elena talking to her grandmother. Elena was learning both English and Spanish simultaneously, and she would often mix the two languages in the most beautiful way. She would say things like, "Abuela, look at the beautiful mariposa flying in the cielo azul," mixing butterfly and blue sky between languages without any self-consciousness at all. And her grandmother would light up, understanding perfectly, responding with the same joyful mixture of languages. Elena wasn't freezing. She wasn't worried about perfection. She was simply using all the tools she had to share what was in her heart. And the result wasn't confusion or failure. It was pure connection. It was love made visible through imperfect, beautiful language. This is what we need to remember. Language is not a math equation where there's only one right answer. Language is more like cooking. You use the ingredients you have. You taste as you go, you adjust and experiment, and sometimes the most delicious dishes come from the happy accidents, the unexpected combinations, the moments when you trust your instincts more than the recipe. Right now, I want you to give yourself permission to be Elena. Give yourself permission to use all the English you have, mixed with gestures, mixed with your native language if you need it, mixed with laughter and warmth and the full expression of who you are. Give yourself permission to be interested in your mistakes instead of ashamed of them. Repeat after me. My English is not perfect, and that's perfectly okay. Say it again. My English is not perfect, and that's perfectly okay. Notice that the world doesn't end when you say those words. Notice that nothing terrible happens when you admit imperfection. In fact, something beautiful happens. You give yourself space to breathe, space to try, space to be human. Here's the secret that native speakers don't want you to know. We make mistakes all the time. We use the wrong word. We forget what we were saying mid-sentence. We mispronounce things. We stumble and restart and laugh at ourselves. The difference is that we've learned to treat these moments as part of the music of conversation, not as evidence that we don't belong in the conversation. You belong in every conversation you enter. Your voice, with its unique accent, its particular rhythm, its beautiful imperfections, adds something to the world that no one else can add. When you speak English with your full personality, you're not just communicating information, you're sharing culture, perspective, wisdom, humor, and heart. You're making the English language richer by bringing your whole self to it. From this moment forward, I want you to remember that fluency isn't about perfection. Fluency is about flow. It's about letting your thoughts and feelings move through you and into the world without getting caught up in the places where they don't sound exactly like a textbook. It's about trusting that the person listening to you wants to understand you, not judge you. So the next time you feel that familiar freeze beginning, remember Elena and her grandmother. Remember that connection is always more important than perfection. Take a breath, put your hand on your heart, and remind yourself, I am not here to perform. I am here to connect. My imperfect English is a gift I'm sharing with the world. Now that we've begun to release the fear of imperfection, let's talk about something magical that happens when you change how you listen to English. Most people listen to English like they're taking a test, trying to catch every word, panicking when they miss something, turning their minds into tight fists that grab at meaning instead of letting it flow naturally. But what if listening could feel like receiving a warm hug instead of facing an interrogation? I want you to imagine that English words are like raindrops. When it starts to rain, you don't try to catch every single drop, do you? You don't panic if some drops hit the ground instead of landing on you. You simply let yourself be in the rain, feeling its rhythm, enjoying its freshness, knowing that you're getting exactly what you need without having to control every moment of the experience. This is how we need to learn to listen to English with an open heart instead of a clenched mind. The beautiful truth is that you already understand far more English than you think you do. Your heart has been collecting English words and phrases for years, storing them in a special place where they wait for you to trust them enough to use them. When you listen with relaxation instead of anxiety, these words begin to surface naturally, like flowers blooming in spring when the conditions are just right. Let me guide you through a different way of listening. Right now, as you hear my voice, instead of trying to translate every word I say, just let my words wash over you like that gentle rain. Notice the rhythm of my speech, the places where my voice rises and falls, the pauses where I take a breath. Feel how the sounds of English can be musical, how they can carry emotion even before you fully understand their meaning. This is what I call listening with your whole body, not just your brain. Your ears hear the sounds, but your heart feels the intention, your body recognizes the rhythm, and your soul connects with the human being behind the words. When you listen this way, English stops being a foreign language and starts being simply another way that humans share what's in their hearts. Now, let's talk about thinking in English, because this is where the real magic happens. Most people try to think in English by translating from their native language, which is like trying to dance while carrying a heavy backpack. It's possible, but it's not graceful, it's not free, and it's definitely not fun. Instead, we're going to learn to think in English the way you learn to think in your first language, through feelings, images, and direct experience. Start small and start with love. When you wake up in the morning and feel the sunlight on your face, instead of thinking the word for sunlight in your native language and then translating it, just let yourself feel the warmth and think warm. When you see your coffee cup, don't translate coffee cup, just look at it and think coffee. When you feel happy, just think happy without any translation step in between. This might feel strange at first, like wearing shoes on the wrong feet. But remember, learning always feels strange at the beginning. When you first learned to ride a bicycle, balancing felt impossible until suddenly it felt natural. Thinking in English follows the same pattern. It feels impossible until suddenly it doesn't. Let me give you some phrases to practice thinking throughout your day. Phrases that connect English directly to your lived experience. I feel peaceful right now. This food tastes good. I'm grateful for this moment. The weather is changing. I wonder what will happen next. Don't translate these phrases. Just let them exist in English in your mind, connected to real moments in your real life. Here's something beautiful I want you to try. Tonight, before you go to sleep, lie in bed and think about your day in simple English. Not perfect English, not textbook English, just honest English. Today I woke up early. I made breakfast. I talked to my friend. I felt happy when. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about using fancy words. Just let your day replay in your mind using the English words you know, filling in with gestures or native language words when you need to. This practice does something incredible. It starts to build English bridges in your brain. Instead of having all your thoughts in your native language with English as a separate, isolated island, you begin to create connections. English becomes part of how you process experience, not just something you put on like uncomfortable clothes when you have to. Before we move to our next section, I want to ask you something. If you're finding this helpful, if you're feeling less alone in your English journey, would you do something for me? Would you subscribe to this channel and let me know in the comments one phrase you practice thinking in English today? It doesn't have to be perfect or impressive. It could be as simple as, I feel better now, or this helped me. Your voice matters here. Your progress matters here. You matter here. Then here's what I want you to remember as we continue. Thinking in English isn't about replacing your native language or losing any part of who you are. It's about adding another room to the house of your mind, another instrument to the orchestra of your expression. You're not becoming less yourself by thinking in English. You're becoming more yourself because you're giving your thoughts and feelings more ways to exist in the world. The person you are in English is still you, just you with different tools. You with different music, you with a broader palette of colors to paint your thoughts and feelings. Trust that person. Be curious about that person. And most importantly, be patient with that person as they learn to think and dream and wonder in this beautiful, imperfect, wonderfully human language we call English. Here's something that might change everything for you. You don't need to wait until you're fluent to start living in English. You don't need to wait until you have perfect grammar or a flawless accent to begin expressing who you really are. Right now, with the English you have today, you can start having real conversations, sharing real thoughts, and creating real connections. The magic isn't in the someday when you'll be perfect. The magic is in the right now where you're brave enough to try. I want to tell you about Marcus, a man I met who had been studying English for 8 years but had never actually ordered food in English at a restaurant. He knew all the vocabulary: appetizer, entree, dessert, medium rare, well done, but he was waiting for the day when he could have a perfect restaurant conversation. One day, his friend challenged him to just try. Marcus walked into a small cafe, pointed at the menu, and said, "This one, please, and coffee." "Thank you." The server smiled, brought him exactly what he wanted, and Marcus realized he had just successfully communicated in English using maybe 10 words total. That's what I want you to understand. Fluency isn't about using big words or complex sentences. Fluency is about getting your meaning across, creating connection, and accomplishing what you need to accomplish. Sometimes the most fluent thing you can do is point and say, "This one, please," with a warm smile. Let's practice some real-life English together, starting with the simplest interactions that happen every day. I'm going to give you some scenarios, and I want you to speak the responses out loud right now, wherever you are. Don't worry about perfect pronunciation. Focus on the feeling of using English to solve real problems and express real needs. Imagine you're in a store and you can't find something you need. You could say, "Excuse me, where is the milk?" Or even simpler, "Milk, please," with a questioning tone. Try it now. "Excuse me, where is the milk?" Feel how those words can actually get you what you need in the real world. Imagine someone asks you how you are, and you want to be honest about having a difficult day. You could say, "I'm okay, just a little tired today," or "Not perfect, but I'm trying." Try it. "I'm okay, just a little tired today." Notice how much more real and human that sounds than always saying, "I'm fine." Imagine you're talking to a neighbor and you want to compliment their garden. You could say, "Your flowers are very beautiful," or "I love your garden, so pretty." Try it. "Your flowers are very beautiful." Feel how that simple sentence can brighten someone's day and create a moment of connection. These aren't fancy sentences, but they're powerful sentences because they come from real situations and real feelings. When you use English to solve actual problems and express genuine emotions, you're not just practicing language, you're living language. And living language always feels different in your body than practicing language. Now, let's talk about something I call micro wins. Because I believe that confidence in English isn't built through grand gestures, it's built through tiny moments of success that accumulate over time like drops of water, eventually filling a bucket. A micro win might be understanding a joke in English. It might be successfully giving directions to someone.
It might be expressing sympathy when a friend is sad, or excitement when they share good news.
I want you to start celebrating these micro wins instead of dismissing them. So often, English learners accomplish something small and immediately think, "Well, that doesn't count because it was easy," or "That doesn't matter because I made mistakes." But every time you use English to create understanding, to express feeling, to connect with another human being, that absolutely counts. That's not just progress, that's success. Let me give you a micro-win challenge for this week. I want you to use English for one small, real thing every day. Maybe it's writing a grocery list in English. Maybe it's saying good morning to your reflection in the mirror. Maybe it's texting one sentence in English to a friend who's also learning. Maybe it's describing what you see outside your window using whatever English words you know. The key is that it has to be real, not an exercise from a book. It has to be connected to your actual life, your actual thoughts, your actual needs. Because when English becomes part of how you live instead of just something you study, your brain starts to understand that English isn't foreign anymore. It's just another tool you use to navigate your world. Here's a conversation practice I want you to try. Have a conversation with yourself in English about a decision you need to make. Maybe you're trying to decide what to cook for dinner, or whether to call a friend, or what movie to watch. Talk through your options out loud. I could make pasta, that's easy. Or maybe chicken? I have chicken in the refrigerator. But I'm not very hungry, so maybe just a salad. This isn't just English practice. This is using English the way native speakers actually use it to think through real decisions in real time. And here's something beautiful about micro wins. They teach you that English isn't something that happens to you. It's something you do. Every time you choose to express a thought in English, every time you choose to try instead of staying silent, every time you choose connection over perfection, you're exercising your English muscles. And just like physical muscles, the more you use them, the stronger they get. Remember, you don't need permission to start using your English in the real world. You don't need to wait for anyone to tell you you're ready. You're ready right now with whatever English you have right now. Your English today is enough for today's conversations. Your English tomorrow will be enough for tomorrow's conversations. Trust the process. Celebrate the small wins, and most importantly, trust yourself to communicate what's in your heart, even if the grammar isn't perfect, and even if you have to pause to find the right word sometimes. Let's talk about something that stops so many beautiful people from speaking English with confidence: the fear that they don't sound right. I want you to know something that might surprise you. There is no single right way to sound in English. English is spoken by billions of people all over the world, and it sounds different in every single mouth that speaks it. Your English, with your unique accent, your particular rhythm, your individual way of shaping sounds, is not wrong. It's simply yours. I remember working with Priya, a brilliant teacher from India who spoke English beautifully but was convinced that her accent made her sound unprofessional. She would practice for hours trying to sound like the news anchors on American television, becoming more and more frustrated as her natural voice fought against this imposed standard. One day, I asked her to tell me about her favorite childhood memory, and as she spoke about monsoon rains and her grandmother's cooking, her voice became musical, expressive, full of warmth and personality. That, I told her, is how I want you to speak English all the time. Like yourself, not like someone else. The truth is, when you try to sound like someone else, you lose the very thing that makes your English beautiful, your authentic voice. Your accent carries your history, your culture, your unique way of seeing the world. When you speak English with your natural accent, you're not speaking broken English. You're speaking your English, and the world needs to hear it. But I understand why pronunciation feels scary. You want to be understood. You want to communicate clearly. You want to feel confident when you speak. All of these desires are completely natural and valid. So let's talk about how to improve your pronunciation, not by erasing who you are, but by becoming more clearly and confidently yourself. The secret to good pronunciation isn't perfection, it's clarity and emotion. When you speak with genuine feeling, when you let your personality shine through your words, people understand you better than when you speak with technically perfect but emotionally flat pronunciation. Think about it. Would you rather listen to someone who pronounces every word perfectly but sounds like a robot? Or someone who mispronounces a few words but speaks with warmth, humor, and genuine connection? Here's a pronunciation exercise that will change how you think about speaking English. I want you to choose a simple sentence that expresses something you truly believe. Maybe it's, I am grateful for my family, or I love learning new things, or tomorrow will be a good day. Now say this sentence out loud, but don't focus on perfect pronunciation. Instead, focus on meaning every word you're saying. Let the truth of the sentence fill your voice. Say it again, this time smiling as you speak. Notice how the sentence sounds different when it carries real emotion. This is what I call speaking from your heart instead of from your head. When you speak from your heart, your voice naturally becomes more expressive, more musical, more engaging. And when people are engaged by your voice, they listen more carefully, which means they understand you better, even if your pronunciation isn't textbook perfect. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful tools for improving your pronunciation: shadowing. This doesn't mean copying someone else's accent completely. It means learning to mirror the rhythm and melody of English while keeping your own unique sound. Find a recording of someone speaking English in a way that feels warm and natural to you. It could be a podcast, a TED Talk, or even just someone telling a story on YouTube. Listen to a short sentence, then repeat it immediately, trying to match not just the words but the rhythm, the pauses, the places where the voice goes up and down. You're not trying to sound exactly like that person. You're learning the music of English so you can play that music with your own instrument, which is your unique voice. Here's what I want you to practice this week. Record yourself speaking English for just 1 minute every day. Don't record yourself reading something. Record yourself talking about your day, your feelings, your thoughts about something that matters to you. Then listen to the recording, not to criticize yourself, but to get familiar with how your English actually sounds, not how you imagine it sounds. Most English learners are surprised when they hear their own voice in English. They expect to sound terrible, but instead they hear someone who is genuinely trying to communicate, someone with personality and warmth, someone who deserves to be heard. That someone is you, and the more you listen to yourself with kindness instead of judgment, the more confident you'll become about letting the world hear your voice. I want to teach you something about pauses, because this might be the most important pronunciation lesson I can give you. When native speakers talk, they pause, they take breaths, they give themselves time to think. But English learners often try to speak without any pauses because they think pausing makes them sound less fluent. Actually, the opposite is true. Strategic pauses make you sound more confident, more thoughtful, more in control of what you're saying. Practice this. I want to tell you something important. Pause. Learning English is changing my life. Pause. Every day I understand more. Feel how those pauses give weight to your words, how they create space for your listener to absorb what you're saying, how they make you sound like someone who has something valuable to share. Your voice in English is not a mistake that needs to be corrected. It's a gift that needs to be shared. Every time you speak English with confidence, you give other English learners permission to speak with confidence too. Every time you use your natural accent with pride, you remind the world that English belongs to everyone who chooses to speak it, not just to people who learned it as children. So speak up, speak out. Let your voice be heard in all its imperfect, beautiful, uniquely yours glory. The world is waiting to hear what you have to say, and it doesn't need you to sound like anyone else. It needs you to sound like you. My dear friend, we've traveled together through the landscape of fear and doubt, through the valleys of self-criticism and up into the mountains of possibility. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want you to take a moment to notice something. You've been listening to English for the past 20 minutes or so, and somewhere along the way, you stopped thinking about the fact that it was English. You stopped translating. You stopped analyzing. You simply started receiving the ideas, the emotions, the connection that language is meant to carry. That shift you just experienced, that's the real magic of language learning. It's not about memorizing rules or achieving perfection. It's about those moments when English stops being foreign and starts being simply another way your heart can express itself in the world. Those moments don't happen because you've mastered every grammar rule. They happen because you've given yourself permission to be human in English, to be imperfect and real and authentically yourself. I want to remind you of something crucial. Learning English is not about becoming a different person. It's about becoming more fully the person you already are. Every language you speak adds another room to the house of your soul, another color to your palette of expression, another way to connect with the beautiful diversity of human experience. When you speak English, you don't lose your culture, your identity, or your unique way of seeing the world. You gain another platform from which to share all of those gifts. Think about what brought you to English in the first place. Maybe it was a dream of traveling, of connecting with people from different cultures, of accessing information and opportunities that could change your life. Maybe it was the desire to help your children, to advance in your career, or simply to challenge yourself to grow. Whatever that original inspiration was, it's still there, still valid, still worth pursuing. And every small step you take in English brings you closer to those dreams. But I want you to remember something even more important than achieving your English goals. I want you to remember to celebrate who you are becoming in the process. Every time you choose to speak instead of staying silent, you become braver. Every time you make a mistake and keep going, you become more resilient. Every time you express kindness, humor, or wisdom in English, you make the world a little bit brighter and more connected. The person you are in English, that person who stumbles sometimes, who pauses to find words, who mixes languages when they need to, who laughs at their own mistakes and tries again, that person is not a lesser version of you. That person is a courageous version of you. That person is doing something that most people in the world never attempt, learning to express their heart in a language that wasn't born in their mouth. I want to give you some words to carry with you. Words that I hope will become like old friends that comfort you when the learning feels hard. I am not perfect. I am progressing. Say that with me now. I am not perfect. I am progressing. And this one, my English is not broken. My English is growing. And finally, I belong in every conversation I choose to join. These aren't just nice sayings, they're truths about you and your journey. Your English isn't broken any more than a seed is broken before it becomes a flower. Your English is exactly where it needs to be for this moment in your learning journey. And tomorrow, it will be exactly where it needs to be for tomorrow. As you go forward from here, I want you to carry with you everything we've discovered together. Remember that the freeze you feel when speaking English is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that your heart is trying to protect you from an imaginary danger. Remember that listening to English can feel like receiving a warm embrace when you approach it with curiosity instead of anxiety. Remember that you don't need to wait for fluency to start living in English. You can begin today with the words you have today. Remember that your accent is not a flaw to be corrected, but a signature to be celebrated. Remember that pauses don't make you sound less fluent, they make you sound more thoughtful. Remember that every micro win counts, every small moment of connection matters. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you're building the confident English speaker you're becoming. But most of all, remember that you're not alone in this journey. Every English learner who has ever felt nervous, every person who has ever stumbled over words and tried again, every dreamer who has ever wanted to express themselves in a new language, they're all walking this path with you. You're part of a community of brave souls who believe that communication is worth the risk, that connection is worth the effort, that growth is worth the discomfort. Before we say goodbye today, I want to ask you to do something for me, for yourself, and for this beautiful community of learners we're building together. In the comments below, share one sentence about your English journey today. It could be, I felt less afraid today, or I practiced thinking in English, or I'm proud of myself for listening to this. It doesn't need to be perfect English. It just needs to be honest English, real English, your English. And if this conversation has helped you feel less alone today, if it's given you hope or courage, or even just a few minutes of peace, please subscribe to this channel. Not because I need the numbers, but because when you subscribe, you're telling yourself that you believe in your English journey, that you're committed to growing, that you deserve to have support and encouragement as you become the English speaker you're meant to be. Your story in English is just beginning, and I can't wait to see where it takes you. Thank you for letting me be part of your journey today. Until we meet again, speak with kindness to yourself, celebrate every small victory, and remember, your voice in English matters. The world needs to hear what you have to say.